it takes a lot. There's so much that happens behind the scenes that you and I get to experience a brand new song like that. It's quite an effort, and I want to honor Bill also, our other band member, and Noreen, and thank you. I mean, it's just the whole thing too about sacred gathering is it's likened to tribal times, which in my belief is we will never replace gathering. Regardless, we will never replace human beings gathering. We rely on that relatability with each other, and there's something that happens when you come to a place that's alive. Are you aware of what that is? You get energized. You get your B12 for the week. You get that energy. Your vibration changes. You're able to release and let go. And even if you're resisting, it will get you. So just, one way or another, it's going to happen to you. Willingly, or as Emma Curtis Hopkins would say, maybe unwilling, but it will. Give yourself some love. Put your hand on your heart. Thank you for being here, because there's anywhere that you could be in the world. Just realize my friend Reverend Michelle Hubbard is here from Ventura County. Bless you, dear. Yeah. She did a wonderful memorial yesterday to honor a family, and we are blessed. And Reverend Heidi was here last week as well, and she did a wonderful. Let's give Reverend Heidi some help. Ernest Holmes would say there is one presence and one power in the universe, and that power is mine. It is flowing through every cell and fiber of my being, and that is the one power, and in that way we have connection. He would also go on to say that there is a power in the universe. It is around us, everywhere present, and it is likened to that like a soil. And every time you think and every time you feel, you are planting seeds into that soil. And that power picks up the seed that you have planted and moves forward with it and makes a connection according to your life. That's why for people like you and me, when we walk around, things seem so familiar, because on some level we made an agreement to the seed of our own understanding to have what we see in the first place. Yes? Yes, this side of the room is a yes. And so it's very interesting when we realize that when we are talking about the externals in our lives, who we love, who we don't love, what we have, what we don't have, and all those experiences, somewhere innately within us, there's a knowing that we are the ones that co-created it. Everybody breathe. We are the ones that co-created it. The good news is that if we choose different, we can what? Co-create differently, yes? I just gave you an experience during the song of who Ernest Holmes was, because back in the day, in the early 1900s and going into that era, it was very common with the thousands of people that would come to hear Ernest Holmes speak, he would have an intention of shaking every hand. And his crew and his entourage would get somewhat irritated with him. Ernest, you have so much going on today. What are you doing? And you're out there shaking all those hands. He said it's absolutely necessary, because by the very nature of exchanging the energy with another human being, my consciousness is changed as to what I'm going to say and share. Wow. Never forgot that. This week, I wanted to bring, having the good pleasure of also being a Science of Mind minister, I'm bi-spiritual. I said that one time at Unity Village and I messed up. I really confused people, but I got it down. So I'm bi-spiritual. I'm ordained in Science of Mind and in Unity. And we are part of the Trailblazers, as in Barbara Fields, as in the Associated with Global New Thought, to show that we need to know we're the same. We cannot stand in front of a room and talk about oneness in the world if we want to divide your unity and your Science of Mind. We're beyond cousins. We are utilizing that one mind, yes? But I'm speaking today about Ernest Holmes, his life and times, and how literally the stories about his life, I did not know him personally, but the stories of his life were transformative in my life and changed me in such form that I could never return to what I thought I knew prior to that. And next week, our beloved Reverend Kathy, let's give her a hand. I know she's watching. She's going to talk to us about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And so in that space, Ernest Holmes, wow, when we think about Ernest Holmes as a young boy, he was noted as being the human question mark. And that's how he was tagged when he was a little boy, is that he questioned everything. Like all of you that have found your way here and through these doors. Who is God? What is God? What do I believe? What do you mean universe? You know, what do you mean I am something and my life can be changed forever? And he asked all those questions. He really lived in a way and in a lineage that we do not want lost among our children. Because there's a saying that when children are young, they start out in life as a question mark. And by the time they're so influenced and put in boxes by limited thinking, except in Unity and Science of Mind teaching in schools, they are a period. I wanted to do this, but my father said I'll never make it. I wanted to do this, but they're saying I'm not tall enough. I want to do this, but they're saying I'm too young. You get the point. Did anybody ever do that to you? My 6th grade teacher told my parents in a special meeting that I was never going to amount to anything because I talked too much. Right? So I want you, thank you, $5 for you after. I want you to hold that because I have found that to be true. And that most things you have been criticized about really had very little to do with you. It was someone in your life that was not comfortable with bigness and did what they needed to do in the best way they could to shut you down because you made them look at yourself. Yes, can you follow that? Everybody breathe. And so that is the space that Ernest Holmes was. He asked questions and he never stopped asking them. One of his last books was Open at the Top. He didn't want the confines of our teaching becoming a theology or self-righteous, or you didn't say it right, or you didn't pray right. And that happens sometimes in community circles of unity, or in Science of Mind. It's like, oh, that's what you said isn't very Fillmorian, or whatever. And that's not what our founders wanted. They wanted the free flow of spirit so we may understand the intelligence because it's always evolving. Ernest, when he was a little boy and they were on a horse and buggy, however you say that, they were being taken to their church, and to those times, yes, in the early 1900s, they were into the only religions that were offered. So it was somewhat of a traditional Christian movement. But as his parents are bringing the family away from church, his parents said, Ernest, did you enjoy today? Now, Ernest, hell, fire, and brimstone, don't even hear that ever again. Do not let that go into your awareness. Forget all that. And Ernest went, thank you. Thank you, Father and Mother, because that cannot be true. One of the things that stuck with me is in ministerial school, and I've followed this practice all my life, is that he said very clearly he never reads just one book at a time. He said because he did not want one author totally influencing his mind or his thinking. Isn't that powerful? That he wanted this openness, and so he would read 3 books at one time. And we have those 3 books for you today in the bookstore. I get it, that wasn't subtle. Ernest Holmes, how did he change my life? What are the stories that transformed me forever? Was the idea that we are healed by what we turn towards, not what we turn away from. In a moment, we are healed by what we turn towards, not what we turn away from. In that, We look at situation, circumstance. We do not feed it. It does not become our narrative, but we first have the awareness that it is there. So we can change our thinking, our mind, and how we line up with it so we can be transformed by the renewal of our mind. Sounds very familiar to Scripture, doesn't it? But there's a story about Ernest that he has William Hornaday, and that was his protege. And William told many stories about Ernest. And one of them was that he was training Bill as his associate to then replace him at the Founder Church in Los Angeles. And so he's following Ernest into the ICU, and there's a woman, and she has so many wires around her that it was just unbelievable. And the nurses and everybody are going like, this person is on their way out, not going to make it. And so Bill's following Ernest and absorbing everything. And Ernest walks up to the woman and looks at her. Her eyes are closed. She has all this noise and sound from machines. And he goes, "Rose, how are you, Rose? Rose, you have the most beautiful blue eyes. We miss you down at Founders Church, Rose. We're really hurting not having your presence there, Rose. And Rose, there's an intelligence within you. Rose, we really need you to come back. You're very important to us." And William Hornaday says he's going, "Earnet, like, what are you doing, And all of a sudden, Rose opens her eyes. And she lifts up. And Ernest says, "I'll see you next Sunday, Rose." True story. And William said something to him. He said, "William, go back to first class. Take Science of Mind 101. Changed me forever. How I've always shown up in a hospital room. Because whether you're staying on this incarnation or not, it takes a lot of life to die. And a woman that I knew, a major in the military, they had given her the wrong medication. And they had pretty much pronounced that it was towards the end of her life. Things were starting to shut down a bit. And I took my associate over to visit her at the Veterans Hospital. And she could blink her eyes and she could move one knuckle. And I go into the hospital room and I'm thanking Ernest. Thank you, Ernest Holmes, for the teaching. I walk up to her and I look at her and I go, "What are you doing? This is not how you're going out. You understand? You are not leaving this planet like this. Do you want out of here?" I said, "If you do, blink your eyes." And she blinked her eyes. I said, "Great, let's plan on next week, getting out of here." She now is an ordained minister. How do we see things? How do we hold things? How do we move things? Often in our own lives, we come from a consciousness of we focus on the problem. And we might even call it something more important. But we're still focusing on the problem versus allowing our minds and our hearts to observe the answer. When Ernest was at Asilomar, which is where we met every summer, where the great Louise Hay founded out of the religious science teaching, so many great people came out of the Science of Mind, that he cut his arm, and quite significantly. And his group of people went running and got the first aid kit and got the Band-Aids and got the ointment and everything to help Ernest out. And they're looking at it and they go to put it on there and he goes, "No, we're not going to do that. I want to see the intelligence, that wonderful power of intelligence and how it will work in my life. I want to see it operative. Don't take that away from me and put a Band-Aid on it." How often do we do that in our lives? We're so quick to put a Band-Aid on a something psychological, something from the past, something, instead of really trusting and aligning with what intelligence can do. Are you relating to this? Is this measurable within you? And nowadays, what a New Thought person might go, "I can't believe with how evolved I am that I cut myself in the first place." It's like, that's not the point. We're not here to replace being a human being, you know? It's about watching whatever you have, whatever you've named, whatever you've claimed. It's there to bring out the better you. It's there to bring out the better you. It's offering you the opportunity to change your thinking about it so you may truly have a forever transformation of your healing. Ernest would say that the world is hypnotized by its using what other people have told it to think. And that's the beauty of us gathering. It's like, oh, no. Change that. Oh, no. Reassess that. Oh, no. Look at that. Ernest loved ice cream, and he was known for that. And every afternoon, people could find him in the local drugstore getting 2 and sometimes 3 scoops of ice cream. And that was before the keto movement, obviously, and all those other things, and the carbs and those things. It wouldn't have mattered to him because he would have just prayed over it and made it go away anyway. But that being said, so he was sitting there one day just having his scoops of ice cream, and he noticed this just badly dressed, non-kept man, and the man had been drinking. And Ernest pulled him over to the side and he said, hello, how you doing? My name is Ernest. What's your name? He did that with everyone, which is why we were saying earlier, you are the hands. What stands before you is yours. It's you in the mirror, yes? It's you in the moment at the grocery and at the restaurant or wherever you are. Why is it in your awareness? Because you're called for something to do. And Ernest lived by that. So he starts talking to this guy and he says, bring my friend lots and lots and lots of black coffee. And so they do. And the guy's drinking he's drinking coffee and he's sobering up. And Ernest says, what do you do? And the man said, well, I used to paint signs. I used to be a sign painter. And he says, my name is Ernest. Could you get the guy to come that owns the store, please? And the man comes. And he says, my name is Ernest Holmes. And my friend here paints signs. Do you need any signs painted? And the guy said, sure, I'm running a clearance and I need several number signs and several things. And the man goes, wonderful. And Ernest said, wait a minute, what are you going to pay him? And so the man goes on to do whatever. And a few weeks pass. And here comes a man with a suit on asking to see Ernest. He sits there in the chair. And he said, I want to thank you. I want to thank you. And Ernest says, come and get in the car with me. Let's go for a ride. So they're riding down and they come upon a vacated building. And Ernest says, can you paint all kinds of signs? And the man said, yes. And Ernest says, I'm going to put up front for you the funds. And the man went on to have a very successful sign business. This is consciousness. This is who we are, how we be. He didn't operate at the level of the problem, of the very obvious problem, but he operated about what was possible or what could be in a new answer. Wow, such energy, yes, such energy. Bill Hornaday had just a real giggle when he said that one time they were in San Francisco and there were thousands of people that had attended. And he said Ernest took a liking to this woman, and he was kind of like concerned because he was his teacher. He took a liking to this lady of the night and how she was acting towards Ernest and everything. And he said, I didn't know what to do about it, because Ernest was always so friendly and all that. And he said, and at the end of the event, Ernest said, Bill, I'm going to go back. I'm taking my friend here to the hotel room. And he said, and Bill, I don't want you to disturb us right away. And Bill said, "You've never seen anything like it." And this woman had these long eyelashes and said, "Oh my gosh." And here's my teacher, and he's taking this strange woman, and he said, "My mind was just going in all these places that I'm not so proud of." He said, "But when I opened that room," Ernest said, "Bill, here is Mary." He had asked her to go in and take off all her makeup. He had put a coat over her. And he said, "Bill, we've made arrangements for Mary to be free from the people that own her here." Now, I've already called Bill, and I've made the plans. I've made the reservations. He said, "I just need you on the way out to stop by, here's the money, and buy Mary some clothes. And she's going home to her family." Let's give Ernest Holmes a hand. This is what it's all about. This is the reason that we are here on purpose. It's not always to be the next number one TV show. It's not always to be the financial empire, though it may be all of those things. But to me, I've always said I'm more interested in how the author lives than how he or she writes. And you and I, we are the authors of our lives. We are in that space with every encounter of there's a nudge or a calling of wanting something to happen here. And so it's that space. And that's the beauty of humanity and our exchanges with each other, is that we're able to see something very different. In closing, there's a story of an old mountain guy, and he goes to this little local country store, and he witnessed something he had never seen before. It was a mirror. And he picked the mirror up, and he looked at it, and he said, "Wow, that really resembles Uncle Zeke." Wow. And he was so intrigued by it that he bought the mirror and he took it home. Well, he knew the family had been feuding with Uncle Zeke, so he didn't want to cause any problems. So he hid the mirror in the barn. And every day he would go out and he would look at the mirror. He would have the witness of that. And he would go, "God, looks so much like Uncle Zeke." Well, one day his wife kind of had it. So she goes out to the barn to figure out what has he been doing. And she picks up the mirror and looks and said, "That's who he's been seeing out here." They'll fill you in later. There you go. And that's the truth, isn't it? The truth is that we have a mirror idea of the image that we are. And therefore, that is the beauty of what our intentions are here, is to show you from a new window what is possible for your life and all the people and all the sentient beings that you come in contact with. God bless you on this amazing journey we call life. Thank you for being here. Thank you.